Welcome back to another episode of Christian Natural Health. Today, I'm very pleased to have Jonathan Otto with us. Jonathan is an investigative journalist, natural health researcher, documentary filmmaker, and humanitarian. He has created several highly acclaimed docuseries: Vaccine Secrets, COVID Secrets, Absolute Healing, Autoimmune Answers, Cancer Secrets, Cancer Decoded, and Depression, Anxiety, and Dementia Secrets, which have won numerous top prizes at film festivals worldwide. In his unceasing quest to reverse the root causes of autoimmune disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, mental health issues, cancer, and heart disease, Jonathan has interviewed hundreds of world-renowned medical doctors, scientists, and natural health experts who reveal the powerful natural and alternative treatments that reverse the diseases that conventional doctors claim are untreatable. Jonathan's greatest reward is hearing the healing testimonials of people who had previously lost hope of recovering their health and whose lives have been saved using his protocols. He received the award's Young Citizen of the Year and International Volunteer of the Year by the Australian Government for International Humanitarian Contributions, which he continues to support. Jonathan and his wife, Lori, are blessed to be the parents of two young sons, Asher and Arthur. Welcome, Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for being with me and having me on as a guest, Lauren. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell us a bit of your story. How in the world did you get into doing all of the documentaries that you're doing?
Well, it was this issue that I had as a child to try to solve problems that, like, because it was by age 17 I became an ambassador for World Vision because I was doing so much research even as a teen on world issues and the fact that people go through starvation, human trafficking, all these things there are a lot of kids that care about these issues and they want to know what they could do to solve these problems. And so I became an ambassador. At that point, I traveled to Tanzania, Africa. So one of my first plane trips was to Africa, and as I started to understand that health was an issue that people were struggling with due to similar reasons for why people suffer in these economic situations, I started to dedicate myself to finding solutions to these problems. And so it was 10 years ago when I then started taking the research that I was doing on health, and I got a degree with a double major in journalism and media production. I then took that research and went into cancer and started to find solutions to cancer that I had never heard about, but they were getting tremendous success. And and then helped produce. I was a producer on that series that became the most well-known cancer documentary series, giving solutions to people around the world and having tens of millions of views on those episodes. Now fast forward to today, we're reaching hundreds of millions of people regularly with our content, and we're able to help give people solutions. And top world-renowned doctors and clinics have me come and help them understand cutting-edge protocols and have them, have their physicians get caught up to speed so they can get, basically utilize these tools to change lives.
Yeah, that's awesome. So cancer was what got you started, and then you kind of branched out from there, is what it sounds
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and have you noticed, considering you've done research into so many different areas now, is there a commonality, any sort of like common patterns that you see that are beneficial for all of the above that you
Yeah.
could throw out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's interesting that with cancer, it's a symptom, and I
Right.
mean, cancer is a star sign. So, yeah, why is it a star sign? And why is it a condition? Well, the answer is because it's just a nebulous term. It's the crab that grows and doesn't stop growing,
Mm.
and so when you have cancer, you have something that grows and doesn't stop growing. And why does it do that? And it's because of dysregulation. There's some kind of toxicity in the body that's causing cells to function abnormally,
Right.
and when you can then tackle this holistically, then you're able to remove these toxins, and then whether it's cancer or autoimmune disease or a thyroid condition
Mm.
or chronic fatigue syndrome or long COVID or whatever the challenge is, you can resolve it. And so some of the things that we're seeing work so effectively include red light therapy. That's been a game changer for people across the board with whatever condition people have, because it's helping the mitochondria. And then we're seeing tremendous success with chelation and parasitic cleanses. So chelation with heavy metal detoxification, that's a game changer. And we're just working around the clock to solve these problems, and we're seeing cases of all kinds of conditions get reversed, especially when these therapies are used together. So like if you do a parasite cleanse, you're doing well, and that's good. But if you do red light therapy at the same time as a parasite cleanse, it makes it much more effective, because red light therapy in and of itself is going to kill parasites. And then when you combine these therapies together, you'll see this tremendous success. Or methylene blue, you see tremendous success with combining red light therapy with methylene blue. And again, it's another anti-parasitic therapy, but when done in combination, you get exponential benefits. And cells are needing, what their fuel source for healing, and one of those the most effective therapies that penetrates the cells is light therapy. So the combination is getting people into remission, and we've seen like late stage cancers get turned around and be put in remission. We see it every day basically, but same with autoimmunity and thyroid conditions, and the list goes on.
Right. And so are you doing the same protocols for everybody who has a particular diagnosis, or is it tailored to the individual based on their story? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's interesting that there's this concept of a universal antidote. I'm not sure if you've heard of that
Not
concept.
really, yeah.
Yeah. So there's some, I've got to be careful with censorship. Are you worried about what I might say that could censor,
Not
or
really.
not too worried?
No.
Well, it, there, I'll even just use the abbreviation for this, something called CDS or CD. People have
Mm.
to look up what that means. And this is what Mel Gibson recently referred to on Rogan's podcast, where he said his friends went into remission. He said they were drinking hydroxy
Oh,
something, but
sure.
it was actually this CD. And I'm just going to say it in abbreviated terms because I am more worried than you are about you getting in
Yeah,
trouble.
sure.
And some of the people to follow that for that are people like Dr. Andreas Kalka that's studied that single substance for 18 years now. And when you see that all these three for three all go into remission, and he's kind of vaguely referring to it because he doesn't really know, but they were doing antiparasitics, ivermectin, fenbendazole, and they were doing methylene blue, and they were doing this CD. And the combination of those therapies were the reason why these people all went into remission. They're cancer free. They don't have cancer anymore. So that protocol is like a universal antidote. And it's working against all conditions, because the problem is that cancer is a downstream. It's a result of a lot of toxicity and a lot of uh, misfiring in the body, a lack of energy and voltage in the body. With that comes all these challenges. And so what we're seeing is when people combine these therapies, they are going to remission, like Mel Gibson talked about. We see it every day of the week with different conditions. And so you think about something like a thyroid condition. Most women, particularly that struggle with thyroid conditions, and men as well, but the issue is that the thyroid is not generating the energy it needs to produce the thyroid hormones that it needs. The T3, T4 aren't getting produced, but it's the mitochondria that are the driving force behind cellular function.
Mhm.
And so, and then so what would be the supplements or the tools that would be best used? And that would be butyrate or butyrine, tributyrin. And this would work best it's a postbiotic, which will help the mitochondria, arguably better than any other single substance you could put in the body. And light therapy is the leading edge of how to stimulate and cause mitochondria to produce adenosine triphosphate, ATP. And as your body produces this, your cells have energy, they can perform functions, and then all of a sudden you're not needing the medications. And the clinical studies show on like light therapies for red lights for the thyroid show that they the even though they took a group and they put them on for 3 weeks red light therapy twice, 3 times a week, and then they tested them 3 months later. So that's like not really good parameters. You should have them tested. You should have them on it even as much as every day, but even if they continued for the next period of time, so that when they're for the next 3 months, once they got tested, they would have had much better results. But even with these poor parameters, they showed a dramatic drop in their need for levothyroxine, which is the medication. Hence why these conversations are big threats to these industries, because people then no longer need to take these drugs. And now when you're affecting their dollar, their pocket, then they start having some problems with you, which has kind of been my life for the last 10,
Yeah,
15 years.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So that's an example.
Okay. So, if somebody has underfunctioning mitochondria, there's a lot of possible reasons why, right? So if there's a lot of toxic exposures that somebody might have been exposed to, and if they're still there, if what you're doing is just stimulating the mitochondria and you're not addressing the reason for the toxins, why are they able to complete, even if they do go back to normal, are they likely to revert back? Don't you have to look at the big picture, or not necessarily?
Yeah, well, you absolutely do. But the mitochondria are actually what regulate the body's ability to remove toxins.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so by doing that, but that being said, would I tell people if they had the ability, the knowledge, that they could then support that therapy by taking activated charcoal to help bind those toxins, or EDTA to help bind and chelate heavy metals, or parasitic cleanses to help deal with the parasitic infection? So like whether it's the natural wormwood or black walnut hulls, ideally green harvested, or whether it's the ivermectin or fenbendazole. Yes, you're going to get exponential benefits by combining them. But even just the people that are purely just doing the light therapies, they're seeing all the reduction in all these toxins and chemicals in their blood, because the mitochondria, and once they're stimulated, they're going to perform detoxification processes. The cells will, and the cell viability, self functioning is going to be dramatically improved. So the first thing that anyone should think of when they're even thinking about detox is not as much about, oh, I need to go and remove this and this and this. I'm going to take these things to remove this. The body knows how to remove those things. It needs the energy to do so. So the first thing to think about is to just increase the energy within the cells. The problem with, even I have a supplement company, but the reason why we're educating all these things is that there are times when people can't even fully digest those supplements. And then so all those all that functionality is not going to occur the way that you would want it to, and hence why the light therapy bypasses all that and stimulates the cell functioning, and then you're able to deal with those problems systemically.
Okay. So my understanding of mitochondrial dysfunction, other than, happening over time, is just as we accumulate toxins in life, is that it's oxidative stress, right? So like there's the electrons that are going inside the mitochondria, and then if they're not functioning very well, there's some of it that's going to spill out. So if somebody's, eating just simple things like eating too much, not exercising enough, you're going to have a mismatch. So there's too much of those electrons that are falling out, and then they're going to create oxidative stress. So the mitochondria are going to underfunction. So in that situation, it seems like what you're saying is you could just use the red light therapy to go in and stimulate the mitochondrial function, and then they'll clean up some of that oxidative stress, get more efficient in terms of producing ATP. But I assume we're also teaching people that they need to fix the mismatch, right? That caused it in the first place, right?
Yeah.
But then also, if there's various different, like heavy metals you mentioned, so various different toxins can also cripple portions of the electron transport chain. How does red light therapy deal with that? Like if there's toxins that are present and red light therapy is involved, then I guess this might be part of why you're saying that there's a more of a benefit of synergy between different
Yeah.
behaviors, because you're getting rid of the toxins and you're stimulating what's left.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so how would mitophagy end up having something to do with this in terms of like stimulating your body to produce new mitochondria versus just helping to stimulate the ones that you've already got? How does that fit in?
Yes, yeah, no, and I'm glad you understand mitophagy. So
Right.
this senescence, the cell senescence, which is when, it put informally, is where your zombie, your body has zombie cells,
Mhm.
and the zombie cells are happening largely because of the mitochondria being defective,
Right.
because of the lack of supply that they have for energy production, and because of the toxicity that's damaging that function. So mitophagy is going to clear out the diseased and damaged mitochondria and cause them to undergo apoptosis, and then that creates the way for new and healthy mitochondria. And so then the body's naturally going to be producing the new and healthy mitochondria. So then they take the place of this, they take over, and mitochondria, they're not present in red blood cells, but they're present in our organ cells, generally speaking. And you can have thousands per cell in the
Mhm.
body, and hundreds of thousands in the cerebellum brain cells, for example, of mitochondria. And they count, generally speaking, for around 25% of the cell, but they're
Mhm.
the energy powerhouse. And so once you've improved that cellular energy, you're able then to perform these functions. And I'll show some examples, if that's all right. And
Please,
then that way
yeah.
you can see it real time. Great.
Yeah.
So like, and so because everyone can have like theories as to what's happening, but then the results are what cause people to really see that, okay, no, this does get to the root of
Yeah.
of the problem. And here's an example. This study here, if you let me share, if that's all right. Okay, fantastic. So, and then I'll read this out for everyone that's audio. So it just allows us to both look at this study. So this
Yeah.
was an in vitro anti-breast cancer study on LED red light therapy through autophagy. And
Uh-huh.
so they're using the wavelengths of 615, 630, 660, and 730 against non-triple negative and triple negative breast cancer origin cell lines. And so it's been shown by MTT assay that 24 hours post-exposure time point, only LED red light wavelength with 660 nanometers possessed anti-proliferative effects against both cell lines with 40% reduction of cell viability. So in 24 hours, the cell viability, meaning the functioning of the tumor cells, dropped by 40%. So their ability to proliferate and grow had a drop by 40% in this case in just 24 hours.
Wow, that is amazing. Hmm.
And so, toxicity and all these different things cause this problem, but then the body's fast in its response when stimulated by light to solve this problem. And here's another example here where, uh, you know, photodynamic therapy. Photodynamic therapy is where you combine an agent that helps the absorption of light into the cells, including the tumor cells. Methylene blue is the one that's getting the most stage time right now, and arguably so. It is a good one. Curcumin is completely natural. Methylene blue isn't, but it doesn't mean that it's not good.
Mhm.
Um, and berberine is another. As just some examples. But photodynamic therapy proved an alternative for palliative chemotherapy or radiotherapy in unresectable, which means that you can't operate on it, lung cancer, and as it achieved an overall response of nearly 87% and improved patient quality of life.
Mhm.
So 87% of people had responded to this therapy in that here's the clinical study here. So you
Mhm.
can see the text. It's blatantly telling you that 87% had that improved quality of life.
Mhm.
And because and this is near infrared light, but
Mhm.
even the bone cancers are getting, they're having a response with the light therapies in a dramatic way, and so you can see the results. The fact that it is entering the bone and it is performing these functions. The prostate cancer study was a blockbuster where 49% of the patients go into remission,
Mhm.
and that's 413 people
Mhm.
in 10 control centers in Europe, and for that to compare to the control group that didn't take the light therapy to be at 13.5% means that just adding in the red light therapy, even though arguably probably what they were doing was all the conventional therapies,
Right.
and now you had a 4 times greater likelihood of beating prostate cancer just by adding red light therapy. And this is avoiding the conversation that you have with difficult family members that they just want to go the conventional route.
Right.
Well,
Sure.
red light therapy is still conventional. So that's our door in with these people and say, look, can you just
Sure.
do me one thing? Add this therapy in. Then
Mhm.
there's other therapies like the CD that I mentioned, the CDS.
Mhm.
Um, and so this kind of gives you a look under the hood on this, even with skin cancer here. And so it's pretty remarkable, and a lot of people haven't seen these results. This one is for lymphoma. This was for the uh, indolent CBCL, which is primary cutaneous follicle center lymphoma, and 2 primary cutaneous marginal cell lymphoma cases. So there's only 3 patients. As a pilot study. It was 2006. They
Mhm.
used 630 nanometer wavelength. They used a photosensitizer, which is aminoleuvolinic acid, not alpha lipoic acid, the ALA, or a methyl form of it. And they covered it up for 4 hours after the area. So blanked it out, made it in a darkened the area, covered it, and all patients achieved complete remission
Mhm.
after up to 2 sessions.
Yeah.
And like that, you shouldn't believe someone saying that, but here, like, so you're seeing it. Those that are listening to audio, seeing that you are seeing the clinical study here on PubMed, which says a 630 nanometer wavelength emitted by a diode lamp was used at affluence of this. All treated patients had complete remission, defined as a clinical and histologic complete absence of CBCL after a maximum of 2 photodynamic therapy sessions at a 1 week interval. No patient experienced particular side effects, and the pain was easily managed after the photodynamic therapy sessions.
Mhm.
That's how the cookie crumbles.
That's amazing. So, okay, so the my understanding of red light therapy, this is not infrared, right? Are you combining infrared with this, or is it?
Yes, infrared, but near infrared, but not far infrared.
Okay. Okay.
So near infrared is when it's 800, even 750 around there. You can't see it anymore. So
Right.
an example. So you're watching visibly here, but I just for Lauren's visible reference here. I've just put on red, but this is emitting also near infrared, but you can't see the near infrared. Whereas here, I'm just going to put it on near infrared setting, and you'll see here mode. Um, if I just switch that purely, I can configure this so it's only going to emit near infrared. But what will happen is if I do that, you won't be able to see it visibly. I
Right.
just don't want to kind
Right.
of
Yeah, of
waste
course.
too much time messing
Sure.
around with the buttons here. But
Yeah.
the near infrared is within the optical spectrum, which means that it's between that 750 mark up to around 1100. After that, you get into mid infrared, and then after that, once you get into the thousands, 3,000, you're getting to far infrared. Far
Mhm.
infrared is where you're getting heat therapies like sauna, and sauna is good for certain reasons, but different reasons. It doesn't do much with the mitochondria.
Got it.
Okay,
Okay.
so it doesn't do much of that, but it is heating your core body temperature, raising your immunity, and so
Mhm.
it's very beneficial. But if there's one thing that you're going to do, to me, it's still the red and near infrared because that's how you can interface with the mitochondria.
Right.
But the near infrared, because it's deeper penetration, it's going to deal with the bones,
Mhm.
the lungs, the brain, and whereas the near infrared, red is going to deal with the dermis and touching on the epidermis.
Right.
And it's not just skin though, because those breast cancer studies were all red light therapies. So that's getting through the breast still, and it's
Mhm.
interfacing with that important region. So
Got it.
that's important to note.
Okay, yeah, that was what I was wondering. So if we're dealing with a lot of these internal cancers, you have to get it deeper than skin level. So that you're saying that the near infrared still manages to penetrate deep enough to do something. And I'm
Correct.
assuming that this is also delivered directly where the problem is. This isn't somebody just standing in front of a red light. This is, you know,
Both. I mean,
okay.
my biggest recommendation still to people is to be in front of a full body panel because when you think about it, what's
Mhm.
driving that cancer? Is it your liver function? The fact that your liver is not functioning properly? Well, your liver cells have an abnormally high number of mitochondria. Do you think you should support that at the same time you support your heart, which has an abnormal number of mitochondria per cell in the heart cells? Do you think you should support your kidneys while you're trying to support your and then your microbiome in your gut, this gut flora that is responsible for converting what you're eating into neurochemicals so that you can have serotonin and epinephrine and norepinephrine, all these dopamine. Well, your microbiome is incredibly sensitive to light and will respond very well to the light therapies, and it will help correct the circadian rhythms in the body.
Mhm.
But yes, you can do these targeted therapies where it's just that region,
Mhm.
and they're doing that with eyes, for example. With one session, people have dramatic improvement in their eyesight, 17% eye improvement after one session. That's
Mhm.
pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
That is amazing, but at the same time, I've also heard that you have to be careful with your eyes because you can actually end up damaging your retinas with the red light. How do you protect against that?
Yeah, well, the clinical studies show that it was having the eyes open for 3 minutes in the morning hours. And if you were over 40 and if you did it in the morning, you would have a 17% eye improvement that would last for a week. And the reason why it only lasts for a week is because you only did it once. So that treatment's not going to hold. But if you did it more regularly, I would say you could expect it to hold. But thereafter, protective eyewear, you have that protective eyewear on or close your eyelids.
After
And
3 minutes.
in Yeah, correct. And in
Okay.
both settings, it's going to go through the protective eyewear anyway. It's going to go
Okay.
through the eyelid anyway,
Okay.
because especially these near infrared wavelengths will penetrate through the entire eyeball anyway. So you kind of have options there. Others would argue that it's always beneficial and there's no need to ever close your eyes because it doesn't damage the retinas. But that's more, basically doctors
Debatable.
and different people in the space that are asserting those points based on all their clinical data.
Mhm.
But the studies are just saying like, look, this is what has been proven to be effective, and so people can be conservative with that. I'm always, careful and conservative.
Absolutely. Yeah. So fascinating. Yeah. I'd always been concerned about the eyes directly because I'd seen some of those studies as well. So very interesting. So, okay, so it sounds like a lot of the studies kind of seem to converge upon the mitochondria. You'd mentioned earlier the idea of voltage. So I know that voltage kind of translates to electrons, electricity, all of the rest of that, right? And then the mitochondria use electrons to make ATP. Are we talking more of a systemic circulation of electricity in the body? Or are we, yes? Okay, so tell me a little
Yeah,
more about what you mean by that.
yeah, absolutely. So Everything's electric, and people have kind of traditionally understood the heart as a pump, as an example. You think of it like it's
Right.
pumping. So the pulsation is kind of very rudimentary in its understanding, though, because it can't circulate the blood through a pump so small. When you're talking about vessels, blood vessels that would and veins that would span for thousands of miles. So then,
Mhm.
how would you, if you had a pump the size of a heart and you went like this and you pumped it, how far would it get along the line for that to communicate? It would just get a few feet, and then the signal would drop, and
Right.
it wouldn't work. But it's through electrical charges that everything circulates, and that's why
Right.
copper is beneficial. And you think about the fact that our phone wires are copper, and that's how you conduct electricity through the wires. Your body is using these same processes to circulate energy, and so it's through the electrolyte minerals, and that's why we're salt water based. When you think about it, we're water based, like 70% water, but we're salt water based, and that's important for the conduction of electricity. And so the light therapies, yeah, and there's therapies like, for example, the CD that I was referring to, or CDS. That is an example of something that's going to deal with that electrical pathway, and so it's going to help the conduction of electricity because it's flooding the body with electrons. You're actually like drinking electrons, and you're
Mhm.
drinking oxygen.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty cool. Like it's around 10,700,000 oxygen molecules for every red blood cell in the body when
Mhm.
you're doing a protocol like the one I mentioned with Dr. Kalka, and you can get these books like Forbidden Health. Look out the Forbidden Health by Dr. Andreas Kalka, and then these therapies work so well in increasing the voltage in the body, and then these high electrical environments don't create the environment for disease to thrive in. And so then the cells function and they can perform their functions, they can remove toxins, they can then just do everything they need to do. And once cells are functioning normally, then you can expect all functions of the body to be improved. And then light therapy is how they interface with this electricity of the body. It's electromagnetic waves that you're getting that's stimulating the body. And when the body's in the presence of these waves, these frequencies, what they'll do is they'll cause the body to produce reactive oxygen species. And this includes singlet oxygen. Singlet oxygen is so powerful you could shoot a missile out of the air with it. And military has been using these types of things in experiments, and so, but the body naturally produces it, and so it's going to cause apoptosis of unhealthy cells, which is programmed cell death. So you're going to have a turnover on all these diseased and dying cells. If you're sick and tired, your cells are sick and tired, and so you need to actually clear them out, let them undergo apoptosis, give way for new and healthy cells, and then the light therapies as well will help stimulate those cells to become mature. Because if you've got stem cells in your body, they need to not just stay stem cells, they need to mature. And you do. You have naturally stem cells circulating every day. People are getting stem cells injections, but they're often not working because the environment never changed.
Right.
So they're just going into the same environment.
Mhm.
The only ones that typically work in some cases is when it's localized, but still, if you're injecting into your knees, if you put red light into or over your knees, you're going to have a much better result. And and arguably you don't even need the stem cell injection in the first place because you'll stimulate the stem cells that are already there to mature and to form healthy knee, bone, joint, and cartilage, and all these diminished cells. Because if you've got no cartilage left, you need those cells back. So then put light over those areas and stimulate the body to produce cartilage in these areas, so that the stem cells that you got circulating in your body will go to these areas and
Mhm.
then mature into healthy cells.
Mhm. Awesome. So, what have I not asked you that you want to make sure you leave with our audience?
Um, well, I think that, like, because when you talk about red light therapy, you think about having a good stretch.
Yeah.
When you talk about red light therapy, then or any other therapy, then it then becomes about what you're doing, like what you end up getting and what to look for.
Right.
That would be a big thing, like because giving people the tools to know, well, what do I look for, and I just went through different wavelengths. That breast cancer study was 615, 630, 660, seven
Right.
thirty. These are the different wavelengths. So if
Mhm.
you got a device that had 730 or 615 or 630, and you were saying, I read about red light therapy, I'm using this for breast cancer, but
Mhm.
if you didn't have 660, that was the only one that was proven to drop the breast tumor proliferation. So then what do? You got to find one with that. And so So teaching people about the wavelengths and then knowing to get devices that have the wavelengths that they need is
Mhm.
one, and the other one is a radiance, which is the amount of power delivered. If it doesn't deliver the amount of power that it needs, then you're not going to get the benefits, and it's going to kind of just be a kind of pretty light. And so that's irradiance. And so you need to look for devices that have high radiance. So these are the things to look for, which is the amount of milliwatts per delivered per centimeter squared. And to also be open in my education with that, my excitement and understanding and research around this it led me to then create a company that would perform what all the studies were showing and to configure devices that have all the wavelengths in them and then have the highest irradiance so you could deliver the power that you need to the body. And so we did that, and I can share more about that if you like. But those are the things to look for. And the other one is low EMF
Mhm.
or no
Right.
EMF.
Absolutely.
So like if you just here's an EMF meter, right? So that's zero. And now I'm going to turn this on and it's zero. So like
Wow.
yeah.
So what's the power supply on that? It's not plugged in, I assume.
No, it's battery powered. And so
Okay.
look,
Yeah.
now you see these numbers going up when I've got it next to my phone here. Wait, hold on.
Uh-huh.
The meet hold on,
Pull it back a
I'll
little bit.
get a reading and it's dropping as soon as I move it into the frame. Hold on.
Yep, yep.
You're seeing it, it'll go up. But anyway, you, I can tell you what it's reading. It's reading at 3.5 uh, and it's on against my phone, which
This is
people walking around in
milligauss.
their pockets all day.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then you put it in front of a device which you're in front of for 30 minutes a day, and it's a zero. So like
That's amazing.
with a high quality device, you don't have to be worried about that, but
Right.
you should be worried about your phone in your pocket.
Yeah, amen to that for sure. So, and tell us a little bit more about your company. Where can people get more information about that?
Absolutely. Well, like for example, as I mentioned with the wavelengths and with the irradiance, so we have the highest irradiance tested that I've ever found of any devices, which is amazing. So it's at 205 milliwatts per centimeter squared at 3 inches. So that's how much power has been delivered through per centimeter squared, which is 205 milliwatts, and and then what we did was we made sure to have the wavelengths. And so what we did is we took the 9 most proven wavelengths for all different conditions. In this case, this is 480, which is blue, 590, which is red orange, more on the orange side, and then 630, 660, which you just learned all about, 810, which is near infrared, 830, 850, and 1060. That's all in the near infrared spectrum from 800 up. And so we have all 9 wavelengths. And so you can configure all of that. And so when you look at like a touchscreen panel, you can actually even control, for some reason, if you wanted just, to put it in sleep mode, or if you wanted, which is then just going to use the red and the orange, or if you wanted to use it for pets or muscle or fat loss, and there's settings for all these things. But because people are losing tremendous amounts of weight, it's actually getting used as a substitute for liposuction.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so like the clinical studies on a 5 week was 6 inches. So 6 inches lost by not changing the diet
Oh, that's incredible.
across the body. And all the thyroid studies are amazing because the best studies on that show like that the hip to waist ratio, the body mass index, all of them drop dramatically for these hypothyroid patients, which a bunch of people are listening. And it doesn't matter what you do with your diet if you're struggling with your thyroid, you just can't deal with the weight. You can't stop the weight gain. You breathe and you gain weight, and you literally are breathing and gaining weight. That's how bad that is. But if you can, deal with these problems through light therapies, then you can solve those problems. And so, where people can learn more is to go to myredlight.com. And
Mhm.
that's myredlight.com. And you can get smaller devices. Like I always tell people, like whatever you can get. Like if you get a smaller device, this costs near nothing when you do the math on it.
Mhm.
And like to give you an example, if you got a full body device, if you factored out what it would cost you a monthly for like over the course of a year or 2 years, it'd be $50 a month, like maybe what you're paying for a single supplement bottle or 2 supplement bottles. And Look, I've had a supplement company for a long time, and we've helped a lot of people with it, with all kinds of conditions, but we've never seen things like this before. So if people had a limited budget, I'd say, look, just focus on red light right now.
Yeah.
And it's a one and done. And at the end of that year period or 2 years, now you own it. Now you're not paying for it anymore. So you save so much money. So there is no, like, there is nothing to buy. There's just money to save when you understand that. And so like, if I told you, here's a supplement, it's going to like improve your eyesight by 17%, and then it's going to do this for breast cancer. It's going to do this for your lymphatic system and lymphomas, and it's going to do this for your liver. You say, look, that's not possible. Like, you can't have that in one bottle, and then it's done at the end of the month. And my whole family, I'm a family of four. I got a wife and two beautiful boys, 3 and 6 years old. We're all using the red light therapy device. So I just told you a scenario including one person.
Mhm.
Divide that by four now. So instead of costing me $15, it's costing me $12,
Right.
and that's one person. So people have to realize what you're making. You're making an investment for your health and for your future that is just remarkable. So it's that simple, and I'm really proud to be able to share that with people as well. For your viewers, your listeners, we want to make sure that they get the best discounts and everything. So we've got great discounts and free gifts and bonuses on the page, but you can use the code Lauren and you get an additional 10% off, and that will allow you to get the greatest savings there, and we'll just keep those discounts open for a limited time. But yeah, you can grab those now, and it's an awesome opportunity.
Fantastic. Well, I will definitely be putting that in the show notes. And for anybody who might want to learn more about red light therapy, I assume on myredlight.com, can they learn more about it there? Is that where you would recommend?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. There's like a 3 hour presentation there. So the slides that I illustrated with you, you'll see me
Right.
go through that for a couple of hours, going through each of the different conditions and all the
Yeah.
autoimmune conditions, the parasite cleansing,
Yeah.
and all of that. And while I remember as well, if people are getting anything they're checking out, they can use Affirm or PayPal or the different payment plan options as well. So like that makes it possible for everyone to get that. And so immediately, instead of, you can just make the monthly payment instead of having to purchase outright if you want that. And
Mhm.
then with devices, the other thing I didn't mention of things to look for is dual LEDs, where you've got two different light sources coming out of the same LED. So
Mhm.
if you see here, notice how that's all red, and now I'm going to switch this. So this is now going to, now you got the blue. You can't quite see that, but you've got different colors coming out of different LEDs.
Mhm.
And so that's a really cool function that people could know about to help them to be able to maximize the treatment, because you're getting two frequencies through the same light emitting diode. So pretty cool.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. This has been great. And I will definitely be linking all of that in the show notes with the discount code. Really appreciate your time.
Welcome, Lauren. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.